So you were born in...
Hello, hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. You were born in 1946 in Oxford.
You don't have to mention the year of my birth.
Yes, because I think it's important. You grew up in England and Nigeria, in the city of Lagos. You studied literature and English, and you began teaching. You're a self-taught photographer as a young man. And then you have been featured in numerous exhibitions and biennials worldwide. Your work has been exhibited in Athens and castles. You were part of Documenta 14 in 2017. And in 2024, we are here to celebrate your book, which is also the result of this Berlin Senate's Hannah Hawk Prize for Life's Achievement. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful book published by Spector, and it's entitled Being, Seeing and Wandering. And it's also shortlisted. I saw it in the Paris Photo Aperture Book Awards shortlist. So double congratulations. It's really... I was wondering if, can we say that it's a retrospective book, or?
It's a mini retrospective.
Yeah. Mini retrospective. So we're lucky that we will see many more images and books to
hopefully,
come.
Hopefully, yeah.
My first question is quite general. I was wondering how you developed this interest for cities. So those are flânerism that take place in Bamako, Berlin, Lagos, Durban. Why the city fascinates you so much?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. First of all, the interest is very much about looking and then taking in my environment. I was born in a small town, but grew up in a relatively small city, which is now a mega city, over 20 million people, Lagos. And I've always been fascinated by streets, the architecture and the people, where are they going, where are they coming from, the cars, everything. And then when I was around my early 20s, I started photographing. And that's how it's been ever since. I keep on constantly engaging with my environment, photographically. Also, of course, I write about it sometimes. I try to sing about it. I'm not a musician, and it's just being there, really.
And I was reading that at the beginning you wanted to become a writer. That you studied a lot the work of Kafka, and I'm biased because image text has been my main obsession for the past 15 years. And I see a deep literary kind of like specter in your images. I mean, sometimes text is there explicitly and quite in an ironic way. For example, I love the image when it says "fac du champ" on a urinal. I was wondering, what's your vision, an idea about the relationship between images and texts?
So, over the decades, what I have learned to understand is that everybody and every sentient being, even the earth itself, is moving with a narrative. There's always a narrative, always. And now it's very much up to you, the individual, to read, understand, listen to this narrative. That's what very much about. So when initially I wanted to write, this is very true, I wanted to become a writer, but then I found photographs more or less do also narrate the narrative, so to speak. So ever since then, and then it's very much all the time listening in, looking, being there, and trying to take in all the time all these different narratives, be it from the trees, from the cars, from the road, all kinds of stuff, all the time. Fascinating, again, is very much the written narrative, the graffitis, what is the posters, the billboards, what is being said to us from the outside. So I'm constantly reading, looking, trying to be there all the time. So it's very much this, it's like, I always say it's like a kind of dance. I'm dancing with my environment in a very actually intimate embrace. And it's constantly, always ongoing.
And how does irony function in your work?
Yeah, this is a tough question because irony is
Is subtle, is
yeah, it's ironical. It's ion as well. It has to do very much with seeing beyond what is given to you in the particular moment. So all the time, I engage with, let's say, for example, I come to a street corner or a street junction, and I engage with the junction. I stay there, stand around looking, and then things start repeating themselves. Some people come and they go back, and sometimes you see things which somebody in particular wants to walk by and doesn't realize that he or she has a relationship with this particular corner. This fascinates me again. So all the time I'm constantly trying to sort of negotiate, move, understand what is happening all the time. Be it ironical, satirical, metaphorical, so many different ways. But all the time sort of listening in, looking. And, very important, making the photographs. So this is one very strong, what's the word? Something with me. I always have the camera with me, even when I go to bed at night.
You never know if the shutter is fast by accident. Perhaps more like a question about your life in between Nigeria and Western Europe. What can you tell us about being constantly like in between those two very different universes?
So this is a very good question, Federica, because I was born in Britain in the late 40s, 46, and at that time, this was just after the Second World War. My parents were studying in Oxford, and there was a lot of resentment against black people. So all my life, I've had this constant racist undertone always there in Europe, but even also in Africa at that time, because when I went back as a child, Nigeria, my country, was a colony. So the British were in the power, and they looked down on us. So this thing has always been there. It's a kind of meta-narrative or subtle narrative going on all the time. Things have changed over the decades, but not completely. Not completely. It's still there all the time. Subtle things, sort of discrimination against black people, against women, against people of different gender, what do you call it, ideologies, all kinds of stuff. Also people who have disabled. So all these kind of things. And these are the things I personally often see on the streets outside. One thing, though, which has happened is that or at least I have learned to negotiate these kind of spaces. So I photograph everywhere I go, be it in Europe here, or so in Paris now, or in Berlin where I live, or in Chicago where I've just come from recently. And I fit in immediately. I don't take any nonsense from anybody. I just go straight inside. And it's very fascinating for me because many people are people. This is very important. So many people think, okay, I'm a white person, but no. People are people, and after a while, they even forget the skin color, and they completely accept me. I can photograph anything and everything. Nowhere. I don't even ask questions. I just do it. So I've realized over the decades again that it's very much negotiating, meandering, trying to understand the environment.
Thank you. The book is quite rich. Also, there are a lot of texts and interviews. And I was reading Clément Cherrou's text, where it's interesting how he kind of like underlines how you did not. Let me find the right words. In the picture generation of highly conceptual photography and this generation of artists came out, that they were kind of a little bit snobbish with photography and say that they were artists using photography and not photographers. And so this all distinction of making and taking an image. And Clément says that you are actually super honest and you really embrace photography, and you feel more inclined to say that you take images rather than make them. But I wonder if this has oscillated over time or evolved somehow, and how do you feel about it today?
At least in my way of photographing, it's very important to be very, very gentle, quiet, almost still. So many a time I just wait, or I actually walk around, but very, very quietly and consciously, and then things start to happen around you. It's what Clément Cherou also writes about, this thing about serendipity, things coming together, happenstance. And there is no one particular moment which is the so-called decisive moment or the most important moment, but there are all these moments. So now it's very much your individual taking, or do I take this particular moment, or do I make again this particular moment? Because some things can also be constructed, maneuvered into being. So one thing I've understood, for example, if you wait long enough at crossroads, an accident is going to happen. But then I don't want to photograph necessarily very bloody accidents, car accidents, people injured. And so either I go away, or sometimes actually you can sometimes sense it coming into being already, or you wait there for it to happen. But then even when the accident actually does happen, do I take the photograph, make the photograph, do I move on? Or many a time, especially when people are fighting, do I get involved in the fight, in trying to stop it? So these are the kind of things all the time. So it's a philosophical, human question. What to do, how to be, again, so the title of the book, Being, Seeing, how to be, and also then, what is it I am wondering for, about? Who am I? And where am I? And where are we all? So this is why I say it's a constant, coming and going, or I love to say giving and taking.
Can you tell us who is Elegba?
So now it's getting very serious. Elegba is, I'm Yoruba, and we have our own traditional religion, Orisha or Ifa, or some people call it voodoo worshipping. And Elegba is the deity, the so-called God, who stands at crossroads. And unfortunately, when the Christianity came, they said he was the devil. He's not the devil. He's more the deity who makes you make the decision. So you come to a crossroads, a fork in the roads, and then you make an offering, and you ask him, Elegba, which way do I go? And he says, it's up to you. You decide. And it's always this is the case. It's very much about, this is what I feel what life's about, your own personal decision. But then, and then, I mean, everybody has to decide for themselves. I'm not a missionary to say that everybody must know, but you find your own way. And then again, I come back to myself as a photographer. I'm standing there on the sidelines or on the main road, making these images, trying to, tell the story, so to speak.
Thank you. I wonder if anybody has a question. Otherwise, I have. Yes, we have two. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm just discovering, and I would love to know where we can find the book.
I was going to say that you are going to sign the book today at Spector booth, which is L04 at 4 now, just after this talk. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we have one there. Can you pass the microphone? Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm also British Nigerian, so I can resonate with your experience of talking about the racism that's still prevalent today. My question is about, you said you started off writing. How far did you get with writing before you decided to pursue a career in photography?
I still write, huh? But usually I write texts about photography and different texts as well, other things as well. I've never given up all these other, what do you call them? Things, ways of being or ways of things to do. I always try to say to younger colleagues, do as much as possible. You don't have to just do photography. You can also like paint, draw, do films, go to the cinema, listen to music. Music is very, very important. So it's a big, comprehensive body of being, so to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Hi, I just have a question regarding your experience in the UK as an African man. Did you ever use or feel that you used the pen or the camera or the lens as a shield?
No, I definitely don't try to do that. I have had occasions where people have told me not to take photographs or started shouting at me. Not so much in Britain or here in Europe, much more at home in Nigeria. Nigeria can be very, very aggressive, especially in the south, Lagos especially, very, very aggressive. Over the decades, again, you learn ways how to deal with these things. And since I've got much older with my gray hair, people have much more respect for me now as well. But I'm not a big, how do you say it in English? I don't believe in this idea of using the lens or the camera as a shield. It's one-to-one. I meet you, you meet me. If you don't like me, if you don't want me to take your photograph, no problem. I'll move on. And then one thing though is there's some things which I feel should be photographed or very, very strong. I'll make the photograph and move on. Sometimes there's been some irate people, but over the years again, even I think they too begin to understand as well. Because photography is a form of, it's a form of writing. And you have to really read it. Initially, many people can't, but with time they can.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Just very short and has to do with that, but you said you walk into a wherever place and don't ask for permissions. How do you deal with consent or for publishing a book later? Of course, you have the people that don't want to be in the picture, but then all those that stay there, do they ever get to know, or are they just anonymous people?
Yeah. When I do portraits, I always ask, obviously. But on the street, you can't ask everybody. And then, you have a big body of work. There's some images which are very... they're not very humane to the other people. I try not to publish them or show them. But again, after 5, 10, 15, 20 years, so it's always this give and take. There's always this give and take. But I still believe very much in photography and also working outside.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions.
I hope there are no more questions.
No. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Federica.
Thanks.